Hi. Hello. Welcome, everybody. It's become a bit of a tradition that when I do an historic pottery show every year, we do a little short presentation on whatever the theme of this particular year is. So this show I've called Dough, Chili, and Stew to represent the different size bowls. And so what I thought we'd do today, there are a lot of people that have written about how you can tell one Pueblo from another, the composition of the temper and the clay. If you want to have references to those books, I can tell you. But what I thought I would do instead, and because I've experienced this a lot this week, people come and say, oh my God, what a beautiful show, all these cool, wonderful bowls. I don't know how to choose. I've heard this like over and over and over again. I don't know how to choose. So I thought I'd give you just an idea of how I choosed. Is that right? That's not right. Chose these pieces. And what it is I love about them. The other thing I heard from my presentation last year was you talked about the best pieces in the show, the ones that were already sold, and then you got me all excited, but those were already sold, so I picked pieces that haven't been sold, if anybody gets excited about any of these particular pieces. So I'm going to look at 5 pieces really quick, and nothing scientific about this, nothing technical about this. I'm going to tell you why I love them and why I picked these pieces. Make sense? That sound good? Okay. So let's start all the way on this side. There's something that's really apparent about this piece, and it's called a dough bowl. Why a dough bowl? Going big like this. A woman would knead the dough, maybe store the bread, and big and deep bowls like this, bathe babies and bathe toddlers in. Remember, there isn't necessarily a million bowls in Pueblo homes in the 19th century. So you have to use one bowl for everything. So there's a number of things that are apparent about this piece that's really wonderful. One is just big. Big is important when it comes to Pueblo pottery. And when it comes to bowls or storage jars, you don't see many of the great big ones that are big and wonderful and still here. Well, why would that be? It's hard to make coiled pottery to begin with. Not many people could do it, and it was a tradition handed down, and some people were good at it, some people not. More people, though, could make smaller pieces. The women who made the big pieces were the rare potters, the best potters. And the Pueblos are small, and in any Pueblo at any one time, lucky if there's one woman in the Pueblo who can make big pieces of pottery. In addition to that, they were given hard use, hard wear, and they would break. And then the art market didn't glom onto these for a long time. By the 1880s, when the trains start coming through here, people start buying Indian things pretty quick. The Smithsonian has publicized pottery through their buying collections and the books that they published. Fred Harvey would come along within a few years. Galleries start opening in Santa Fe. Bang! It's as soon as those trains are here, the Gold Brothers, Candelarias have shops, and they're selling pottery. So people were aware of the pottery, but this kind of piece, number one, I think just didn't fit people's aesthetics. This kind of big, clunky, utilitarian, most people didn't think it was beautiful. Number two, how are you going to get this to Chicago and New York without FedEx and without bubble wrap, without anything like that? And so the whole part of potteries being preserved by collectors didn't happen much. I've debated at this point with a number of people I know about just when the aesthetic started changing. People started looking at big pots and going, that's a really cool thing. And I think some of the great collections started to be put together after the war years. By then, lots of big pieces, lots of big dough bowls, big storage jars, they're already destroyed. So they remain a great rarity to this day. Well, for all the same reasons, they were rarities in Pueblo homes too. So this piece has so much going for it. It's not only big, but it's beautifully formed. Remember, this is coil created, so snakes of clay like we made in kindergarten, that's how this was made. The potter had to know when to put the next coil on. You do it too fast, and then you got a lot of weight, You got a bowl that isn't as perfectly formed, it just caves in on itself from the weight. Way too long, you can't blend the coils in. So it's a particular skill. The piece then was beautifully painted. Quite an art form to be painting along all these ridges, painting all around, having the black consistently black, and the design as beautiful as it is. There is a mark on the inside. There's a couple of possible explanations for that. This piece could have been used ceremonial at one point in time before being retired in the kiva, and then eventually being sold into the art market. But why would it have been retired? This gives us some clues. There's some small cracks off of the rim. That happens in big pieces of pottery, big dough bowls, big storage jars. So remember what we said. Not many people could make these big pieces, plus grandma made this, our great-grandma made this. They can't go to Walmart and replace it either. So what do they need to do? They want to protect it. They want to tie something around it that's going to keep the pot intact and the crack from spreading. And so we call this a native repair or an ethnographic repair. And when it comes to historic pottery, that's part of the heart connection, the caring of the pot, the cherishing of it, and the cherishing of the potters. Took these pieces so much, they took them to heart and cared for them so much more than we normally do in this throwaway society that we live in. Great bowl, big, wonderful. So I'm gonna, instead of going right to here, I'm gonna go up here. So you may have noticed this wonderful bowl. So this is from San Juan, Pueblo, called Oke Awinge now. And they, through most of the 19th century, really made two types of pottery, what we call black on gray, which is black on the top, polished on the top, polished but not slipped on the bottom. So there's a separation of a grayish field and a black field, and they made red on tan. They made some monochromatic too. But here's what we look for in these wonderful old pieces. First of all, the red is red. It's a deep brick red. Sometimes it comes out redder than this. Sometimes it's left in the firing a little too long and it goes brown, which can be lovely. But in this case, beautiful red. The tan is just rich, beautiful tan. And you might be able to see it's got ridges. And the ridges come from stone polishing when the coils are still damp. Well, that wasn't a mistake here. At San Juan, they did that again and again and again because this was part of the aesthetic. I've heard some people say, well, that's corn cob polishing. From talking to potters, I sort of don't think so. I think it's stone polished with wet coils, and it created one wave after another. Red on tan, and then if we're lucky, we get beautiful fire clouds. Now, if you go to Indian market this year, you won't see many fire clouds because for generations, Anglo tourists have been telling galleries and been telling potters, you know, I don't really want that, we want one perfect. Well, the Indians heard that long enough that they finally decided to stop firing traditionally outside because this cloud is formed when the firing fuel, which is usually some kind of manure, oftentimes sheep manure, becomes molten in the firing process, burns onto here, burns off, and leaves this scorch mark. Sometimes when we're lucky, they're this beautiful blue-black, and they're pleasing and wonderful, and Pueblo people love these fire clouds. And then we already know about the native repair. There's a crack off the rim. That would have been a problem, except the wire closed it up, and to keep the wire in place, there's a drip right there that's pinon pitch. So look at all the effort that was gone to keep this piece intact. And then here it is. I don't know, these pieces, like this old form dates anywhere from the 1840s to the 1880s, and it's here for us to enjoy today. This is a beautiful, almost perfect example of a red on tan from San Juan. Okay, I love Zia pottery and I love Cochiti pottery, and Cochiti bowls are among the rare bowls. So we're going to get to these two pieces last, but I want to touch upon this one. It sort of relates to this one, even though they don't look anything alike. by and large, there's two types of collectors of Pueblo pottery today. And despite all this talk about the history, the cultural significance, the use of pottery, for us it's art. And there's really two broad classifications of buyers today. People who buy contemporary, and you'll see, Santa Feans or people visiting for a while. There'll be 100,000 people visiting Santa Fe to go to Santa Fe's Indian Market. Lots of pottery, other kinds of artwork, and people that really love the perfection of a lot of the artists. And a lot of them are just fabulous, the work that they do. Other people, historical collectors, and there's near and dear to my heart, love old pieces of pottery. They love really old. They love 19th century. They love pottery that's had a lot of use. That to them is old. 1930s sort of falls in between. Not 19th century, is it? It's not 2015 with a ribbon given at Indian Market, is it? So 1930s are sort of a forgotten period. Not old enough, not new enough, not interesting enough to a lot of people, which means anybody who is a shrewd collector, they open their heart up a little bit to the next round of great historics, and these are rare. I hardly ever see great pieces from the 30s. So let's look at these two. This one is a gorgeous piece that most people would just call a plate. I'm broadly defining that because this great potter from Santa Clara turned up the sides so it's almost more like a shallow bowl, not shaped too much differently from that. This piece is signed lightly in the back, Margaret DeFoya, Santa Clara, and I think this is one of Margaret's pieces from the mid-1930s as she's just starting to find her own voice as a potter and signing herself. Signing pottery, she's one of the early people. Maria Martinez did it 10 years ago, but not many potters are doing it. So the fact that it's signed on the back is really helpful to us. So what I love about this is, again, it's a big plate. Many potters to this day have shied away from plates. They're really hard. You have to get every last little air bubble out, or this thing will just explode in firing. And frequently you talk to potters, say, oh, I did a plate, it got a crack over and over and over again. You hear that. Margaret could do it, and she made beautiful, beautiful plates. Her redware is among the glory of her artistic expression. And so what I love about this is it's beautifully formed, it's beautifully carved, that's all nice. It's the red for me. When I saw this deep, beautiful red, I was sunk. And the people that brought it in is an interesting story. A couple from Florida brought this in, but the woman is from Madrid, New Mexico. We all know Madrid, New Mexico. You can barely get there today. I mean, it's a small town. And one of the things that was done there in the 20s and 30s, where there were coal mines there. And so her dad was a miner in the Madras area. And you talk about, really loving and wanting pottery. He would save up his money and then make trips to Santa Clara, where his favorite potter was, Margaret DeFoya. There were 4 kids in the family, and when her dad died, each one got one piece of pottery in his whole life. He was able to get 4 pieces of pottery from Margaret DeFoya on a coal miner's salary, and then schlepping from the Madras area to Santa Clara when there's no paved roads to speak of. There's somebody who wanted pottery a lot. So we finally worked out a deal together. I bought the piece of pottery from this woman, and then she's walking out the door. She's slumped over. The tears are just pouring down her face. I got stopped her. I said, take it home. I'll tear up your check. You don't have to sell this to me. But that's sort of the way pottery is. It's one of the reasons I love this art form. It connects us to people and the history and the land. And if you have any kind of a strong feel for this place, pottery is an art form that anchors you there. And I think that's what it's meant to so many people. And of course, this was also a piece that linked her to her father. A wonderful, beautiful piece. So here we go. 2 pieces from Coche de Pueblo, both bowls, both wonderful. I'm going to go this one first because we were doing the 1930s thing. So I think this piece was made by a woman named Ignacia Suina, who, according to Jonathan Batkin and some of the documented pictures that we have of her and this period of time, She was just making beautiful pottery, and she was specializing in large storage jars, dough bowls, and this one is just really beautiful. So what do we love? It's got a creamy, gorgeous slip. So a slip is a clay-based paint, and it forms the easel that the potter works on. The potter can either stone polish at the Chihuahua Pueblos, Santa Clara, San Juan, or paint a design in black at Cochiti and Santo Domingo. It's frequently something called spinach weed or beesweed, which is a rather noxious smelling thing. It paints on clear, so they're painting like with water, but then fires black. So this has this beautiful, creamy backdrop and finish. The designs are very, very spare, but beautifully painted. So what are these designs? You know, I know and I don't. When we see certain forms, it's easy and usually close to being accurate if we guess clouds and rain. So if we turn this one sideways, this umbrella-like form here and this black form here are probably clouds, rain. When we see parallel lines, rain. This negative space, which is actually created by the black design work, leaving a little white area, looks like a leaf. Well, it probably is a leaf. I mean, I don't know, but that's what I think. So we're going to get back to that design because there's a clear example of that in this older bowl. And then in the inside, we see something very typical at Cochiti Pueblo. We see these forms all around, clouds. Whenever we see dots in Pueblo pottery, and we don't know what it is, a good guess, rain. I've had several potters tell me pottery is a prayer to rain. And this is another indication of that. What's unusual about this is oftentimes the cloud forms are colored in, like dark storm clouds. Like on this Cochiti bowl right here, the plainware one on the outside, you see at the top, the same cloud formations. And then on the inside, just for fun, this delightful little bird. And if this had been a piece that was used a lot rather than made for the art market, that piece probably would have been obliterated by cornmeal, other kinds of things. So what is the bird decorated with? Dots and feathers on its head. But what do the feathers look like? Parallel lines. What are the parallel lines? Rain. The beautiful bowl, 1930s. Early piece made for the art market in the early days of the art market at Cochiti. This piece is different. This is an older piece. So remember what we talked about with clouds and rain. Most Cochiti bowls that I see that have the cloud elements, they're on the inside. They're on the inside. It's like that one right there. In this case, the cloud formations are on the outside. I don't know why, and it's just a curiosity or an artistic decision by the artist. But here we have a very, very typical cloud and rain design that you see on Cochiti Pueblo a lot. So we've already talked about it, and you can recognize these forms now. Clouds here, maybe lightning here, and then rain here, some kind of water feature here, and then there's the plant life again. So a great pottery guy who is a real character in the pottery world, a guy named Dick Howard, used to explain that what he heard from the Cochiti potters, and they said, it's water above the ground, it's water below the ground, and that gives life. Whether it's true or not, whether the Cochiti potters would agree with that, it's a nice story anyway, but it's pretty clear that that's likely what that design means. So this piece also has just beautiful patina. So if you run your fingers over, it's like running your fingers over glass. I don't know if I can get the light on it well, but you see that band right there? That's an indication of 19th century pottery by and large. I'm careful with that because if a woman made this piece in the 1880s and she's 22 years old and she learned it from her mom, and then in 1915 she's still making pottery, well, she's still making pottery the same way. So more and more and more, as I make attributions to age, I'm sort of like drawing that date wider. I think this piece is 1890s to 1915, I don't know, and it really doesn't matter. It's an old piece of pottery. It had use in Pueblo home. That's what this rough little patch right there. It has a beautiful surface. This red band is just filled with mica. It just, can you see the maybe when you later on you can come up and look, it just glitters. That band is the last thing that's painted on before the piece. It's almost like an exclamation point before the piece is fired. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, all those elements can add up to you love it or you don't love it. I'm trying to explain to you why I think this is a spectacular little bowl. Coche de Pueblo, 1890 to 1915. So the other things that I'll mention, there's some other very curious pieces here. This one's pretty interesting to me. So a lot of these Santo Domingo bowls, and you see on this on the white ledge, there's like 3 right in a row, bang, bang, bang. 3 that look similar on their surface. Part of the similarity is very tight repeating designs. Well, that's Santo Domingo, where certain bowl designs were used again and again and again, and there wasn't much freedom given to the potters to go outside of those types of designs for bowls. What I love about all 3 of those, and what this collector who put this collection of dough bowls that includes this one as well as those 3, he just loves simple dough bowls with beautiful surfaces. So if there's one thing that attracts me to a piece of pottery, a particular bowl, when I look at it, the surface. I'll forgive almost everything else. If the surface is beautiful, I'll love the piece of pottery. Mark Cibolette is here from Medicine Man Gallery. He and I both love pottery. We talk about this all the time. We agree on, not much, but we definitely agree on the beauty of pottery surfaces and how good his mysteries are.
True, the older the better. Don't be afraid of wear.
Yeah.
Really don't be afraid.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what's wonderful about this. So almost always, there's some exceptions, but almost always at Santo Domingo, Pueblo, the decoration's on the outside. There's no decoration on the inside. Where's there decoration on the inside? Coche de Pueblo, right next door. Same language group, same religious group, many similarities in the type of clays and paints, but some differences in tradition. Decorated on the inside, Coche de Pueblo. Santo Domingo, classic form, gorgeous surface, beautiful red band, gorgeous wear. It's made beautifully. It's definitely Santo Domingo, except for that. So what happened? Yeah, I really don't know what happened. But I gotta guess. I always have theories for things. So this is so coachety on the inside. We recognize those cloud forms again. There they are around the inside. And what happens from clouds and rain and moisture? Life. Plant life in this case. So I think probably what happened was the Santo Domingo woman, she learns to make pottery the way her mom did, the way her grandmother did, learns from them, makes a classic piece, marries into coachety, same language group, same religion roughly, and all the women, all the ladies are decorating their potteries on the inside, so why not? It's as good a theory as anything, so it's sort of a hybrid. 1890s to 1910, and just a delightful and whimsical piece with a flower in the middle.
Lynn,
Yes?
would that have been likely to remain for the art market because of the design on the inside?
No, there's too much wear. It's had too much handling, so I don't think so. Now, ultimately, all these pieces end up in the art market. Trains start coming through in the 1880s, and boom. You know, the early antecedents of people like Mark and I, the traders, start opening shops. The Indians start going to the train station and try selling their big pieces of pottery. They don't succeed completely at that, but they then start miniaturizing their pottery, selling it to people, and an understanding begins that the pottery can serve a new function. The potters can help their families now by selling pieces of pottery into the market. So eventually all these pieces find their way into the art market. So as appreciators of Pueblo pottery, me as a dealer, and you potentially as collectors or as collectors, I don't know, I think we serve a wonderful function. We're caretakers for these wonderful objects of art and appreciators, and we're the ones that are going to protect them now for the next generation to come. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.